So we have here a very good friend of mine called Mundy. He's as of now a tech analyst for Accenture, and I thought it would be super interesting to have some insights, some opinions from his side to hopefully help any students or people beginning their career who would like to break into consulting, and most especially like tech consulting. So could you give us a super quick intro about yourself, Mundy, and then I'll jump into
As
some
quick as
questions.
possible. Yep. My official title right now is Tech Delivery Analyst. And before joining Accenture, I was doing a postgrad in Management of Information and Digital Innovation at the LSE. A mouthful of a degree name, I know, but it's just short for MISD.
Yeah,
So I believe my journey is quite relatable for whoever that will listen to this podcast. So yeah, that's a quite a brief intro. I'm not gonna go into like my personal interests and all that. I don't think that's that relevant.
yeah, don't worry. Cool, thanks, man. All right, so I think the first question that I think it will be super relevant, like, if I come out fresh out of university or like, I've heard of like big consulting, and especially I'm starting to hear about Accenture, which is like a super, super big consulting firm. Like, the first thing I probably would want to ask is like, how did you do it? Like, breaking into a place like this, any insights that you think could be relevant when you're at university or you finish university?
Uh, I think a lot of people want to break into it. There's definitely the desire, but I feel like a lot of people also buy into the hype of like there's this tech going on, the tech industry. It's like it comes with the money, it comes with the cloud. So I don't think wanting it is enough. When I was in undergrad, I wanted it, but I think it's just a very surface level of like wanting and aspiring to be in that position. It's only in postgrad or like even pre postgrad where I was fortunate enough to be working in a sort of tech environment in my
Right.
previous company where actually get exposed to
Yeah.
some tech projects or some tech content where
Okay.
you start like, okay, I actually do enjoy this. Because from my personal journey point of view, if you don't genuinely have exposure or have like a hands-on experience with this sort of stuff, it's quite hard to even break into it. Um,
Okay.
for
Oh,
starters,
that's an interesting point. But
like
so, yeah, what do you mean? How? Yeah, go
like it's
ahead.
easy. Like if okay, imagine I'm a uni student now, and I'm about to graduate. I'm thinking of my career options and stuff. I'm like, oh, I want to get into tech.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the next question would be, why do you want to get into tech? That's like the basic question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're like, oh, because it's interesting, or because the money is good, or blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But so what makes it interesting? There's all these like follow up questions that I feel like only you yourself can answer
Okay.
with the sort of experience that you go out and get for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, those experiences, I was lucky enough for these experiences to come to me first.
Mm-hmm.
So so at least I was able to like form my aspirations to be like, okay, I want to be able to at least try and explore this career path, and
Okay.
that's how I got into tech per se.
Okay. And so, okay, so I guess the learning here is like you need to start with like a strong why for why you go into it, because just saying like I want to go for the money, it's not enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, I believe the experience is similar to you. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think it was a big like, oh, I want to get into tech. But you sort of like, for most, at least for me and some of my colleagues, some of my good friends, a lot of us stumbled into it.
Yeah.
But and it's with all this unplanned or sort of like journey that gets us like, okay, this is how we want to do it, and
Mm.
that's how you get into it.
I think that's a very good point, and it gives like a really realistic picture now. Because yeah, remind me like before getting into this position, like what were the other options that you were looking at?
So, I mean, okay, when I was in postgrad and when I was looking for jobs, obviously I wasn't like one of those where I only wanted to be in tech. I casted my net wide. I'd applied to different jobs in banking, finance.
Okay. Yeah.
While obviously the primary focus or the ideal position is obviously to get into tech because my postgrad degree was in tech.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I wasn't like, I have to be honest, I wasn't that focused in terms of like, oh, I have to get into tech.
Mm-hmm.
I was still exploring my options, seeing how I can fit into whatever industries or companies
Mm-hmm.
that I was applying for. And when I get interviews for tech companies or tech roles,
Yeah.
I found it a lot easier for me to handle those interviews because of the content that I was studying in my postgrad.
Okay.
Yeah, like the interviews didn't feel like an interview. It just felt like another seminar because of the stuff that we learned in postgrad. It was very relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Things like robotic process automation, just agile environments, software development lifecycle. I mean, these are things that could be very obvious once you are in tech.
Yeah.
I think right now, like for people like us, it's like bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe as a uni student, it might not be that apparent.
Yeah.
You'll just be like, oh, these are just some concepts that I come across with, people talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you talk about this day in, day out with the professors, with your fellow peers,
Yeah.
house parties,
But
social events.
sorry to cut you off here. Just like it's a very good point. Like imagine actually I didn't go to LSE like you, and I'm hearing this, and I'm like, okay, that sounds actually super cool, but I don't have the university that you did, and I don't have friends that do that. Like, where do you think they can learn this sort of like lingo and knowing how to pass those interviews?
Network. Um, I think yeah. Previously, you were asking like what I should maybe like what's a book that I read or videos that I watch.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not that much of a book reader.
Yeah.
That's not that much of a. I learn best from people, and I feel like most of us do.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know it. So yeah, the best way is just to network. And I know this network buzzword has been going around ever since we started uni. You got to go and talk to people. You got to go out and like put yourself out there. It is quite hard, and I think it's a skill that it has to be nurtured. And so, what I can suggest, or based on my personal experiences, I mean, we are all first step is to be sociable. I think that's like the core
Yeah.
of like trying to learn about something or
Yeah.
like trying to like be something.
Mm-hmm.
So once you're sociable, um, when you go out there and you like do like any social events where you do meet people, instead of asking stupid things like uh, what the weather or like pop culture stuff, try and find out more about like the current business climate, the current
Mm.
the current developments that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
Input, whether good or not, from someone, whether he's aware or whether he's not aware, is still input. And with when all these things come together, with all these different opinions from different people, you start forming an idea of what to look out for, what to know.
Mm-hmm.
Today, you could be meeting someone who's like doing a certain project or like working at something that you don't know of. You go home, you Google it, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Tomorrow, you meet another person who's doing something, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And you just Google it again.
Yeah.
You consolidate everything, and then these things could eventually amount to like a formal interest, and that's when things will start to pick off and start to click, I would say.
Mm. I really enjoy that you say that because, like, I was always taught from a young age, like, everything needs to be in books and stuff. And in a way, in the end, that's sort of like how I did it. But I'm happy that, like, people like yourself are doing super well in life and actually did not necessarily follow that path. You were really 100% more on, like, the networking path. And so I guess if a listener identifies and relate with what you're saying, then that makes me happy because somebody's like, okay, he did it, then probably I can try and do it as well. So that's cool. So just like on a final note, which I think is something that would be super interesting for you to share about, which is that so you got into this big consulting firm, Accenture, like super cool on your CV, and you got a training in learning like JavaScript and actually becoming even more technical. And I think this is super interesting because maybe somebody would love to learn a bit of JavaScript or things like this. Can you quickly explain a bit about it?
Okay, I'll make it brief because there's actually a whole new presentation on this. Anyway, so I was quite lucky to join Accenture during a period where the company was going through a sort of strategic reform.
Yeah.
They're pretty much trying to groom analysts like us to be very technically advanced
Mm-hmm.
in certain skill sets. They are very in demand right now
Mm-hmm.
in the market. So My batch is the second, my start group, or like the people, the analysts are with me who are like the second cohort to go through this boot camp, pretty much a 10-week, pretty intense boot camp, I must say, whereby we will learn things like web development, yeah, like you said, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, AWS, cloud deployment. So we learn how to
Wow.
configure cloud deployments. We learn how to do like things that are within the AWS services, AWS Lambda, AWS API Gateway, S3 bucket, things like that. I'm not an expert at it still. I'm still a student for life. But
That's good.
um, those things definitely like give me a better picture in terms of how to tackle this sort of problems when I eventually go into projects and stuff. And I think that 10 weeks, even though it's like intense, it's the things I learned in those 10 weeks pretty much exceed any of the formal education I had before. Like it's so relevant. Even that 45-minute lecture given by a manager, it's like wow, because you'll be like with that 45 minutes you are proficient enough to build something and put it on and deploy it on the internet now. So you're pretty much a web developer within 45 minutes of training if you think about it in that sense, big
Yeah.
picture wise. So it's pretty mind blowing when I look back and like wow, okay, that's pretty like cool.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things I give props to my company for. I think in terms of learning and development, they are pretty A1.
I mean, I've been in tech now and I've never heard of that, which is why like I wanted to make a final point on this, which is like if it can help one person apply for that job because they heard that essentially you become a programmer whilst getting paid. I've never heard of that anywhere else, honestly.
Uh,
So
yeah, no, it's pretty rare. I mean, I was taken aback too. So yeah,
yeah,
pretty cool company to work for. Must say, I
cool.
have to sell my company a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's very very good. So which is why like just like a closing thought, like if you had to go back and see Mundy like, like to you 2 3 years ago, like
Oof, oof.
what's the one thing you would tell him, or you don't need to think about yourself. Like you could think like just somebody 2 3 years
What
behind you.
I think about it every day, man. Or if you look back, I mean, come on, I'm sure you do too.
Uh,
Like if you look back and think back,
but I mean I'm interviewing you. Like I want to know your thoughts.
um, it's a good question actually. But even though I think about it every day, but in terms of like work wise, I would say I would try and be more strategic back then. I think, um, frankly, I was a bit playful when I was in undergrad. I wasn't that focused. I wasn't that. I feel like I was driven, but I wasn't. I was just driven to get the grades, but I wasn't driven to like achieve things in life. If you
Yeah,
know what I mean. I just wanted to like, all right, yeah, I'm smarter than him, and therefore I should get a better grade than that guy. That's it. Full stop. In terms of like career, I didn't have any planning. Um, I had a CV. I went into interviews thinking I was the smartest guy in the world. I don't have to prepare much. I can pretty much chat off, which is definitely not the case. You have to prepare. Uh,
I didn't know you thought like that. Okay.
oh no, no, like 100%. I walked into so many interviews where I just like went off the rail. Like, how you doing? Or what do you think about this? And I was just like, yeah, I'm smart enough. I can definitely answer it off. I know some numbers in my head. I know some stats. I read their website. I should be prepared.
Yeah,
But definitely not the case. You need to have a structure and all that stuff, which I learned quite late into my student life.
yeah,
So yeah, I guess that would be my short answer. If I could go back, I would definitely be a bit more strategic, be a bit more like uh, I don't know what the word is, career savvy, just to
yeah,
like know what to say, know how to do it. Because there's definitely a trick to do. Not a trick, but I feel like in terms of applying for jobs, there's definitely an art. And if you even master like 60% of this art, you can definitely get way further than someone who don't even know how to do it.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very very good advice, and like I could have definitely taken that advice if I had heard that. So for sure, for sure.
We
Cool.
just need to help one people, right? So
Exactly. It only
at
takes
least
one.
one, just
Exactly.
one.
Cool. Well, thanks, Mundy, so much for all this super cool insights. Um, just to
Oh,
repeat,
thank you
if
for having me.
anybody, yeah, sorry, if anybody therefore finds like your position interesting, I believe it's like Accenture Tech Architect Analyst. Uh, it may not be there by the time somebody hears, but if somebody hears it and it's the right time, then cool. It'd be nice.
Yeah, ping me.
Ping me.
LinkedIn me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mundy. Yeah, super cool.